Mom. You are seeing this video because you're about to take our Power Boost Your Life yoga class, and we want to give you a couple of instructions before to get ready. So there are two practices that this class is centered around. One we do during the class itself, which is the Power Boost breathing. And then the other powerful practice is the cold exposure, or for simple, cold shower. So I will say a few words about each of them. As far as the breathing is concerned, what's important to understand it's a hyperventilation, extremely powerful hyperventilation technique. And while this is happening, there are two phases. One is the accelerated breaths. And during that part, we are emptying the carbon dioxide from the blood. So it's still full of oxygen, but there is very little carbon dioxide. And when we have little carbon dioxide in our blood, then the oxygen cannot physiologically reach out to the body, to all the cells, the organs, the muscles, the brain, the whole body start to be deprived of oxygen. So that leads to a little dizziness and typically tingling in our body when we transition into the second phase. And the second phase, the powerful one, is when you hold the breath. And when you hold the breath, then the carbon dioxide starts going up in the blood again, and then the oxygen can go from the bloodstream to all the cells of the body, from the feet to the head, the brain, all organs, all muscles, and other tissues everywhere get infused with a lot of oxygen. So it's a very energizing practice, vitalizing, oxygenating, we could say. And that creates a high in the mind and a lightness of the body, which is hard to describe. But what we can say is everybody who practices a few rounds every day swears by this practice. It's one of the yoga pranayamas, and it has been specifically customized. So it's the ideal practice to do before doing cold exposure, either cold bath or cold shower or anything like this. So it's really a valuable practice because you get a lot of the benefits of yoga in a very short time. In our class, of course, we do more practices, but this is the central one. And how to do it? It will be, you will be guided how to do this breathing during the class. So that's quite simple, actually. And what you need to know is, everybody practices it a bit in their own way. For example, you can breathe through the nose or through the mouth. You can do it more forcefully or less forcefully. You can practice it on your own. You can practice it at different speeds. But during the class, we try to all stick to the same rhythm if possible. But even that doesn't matter too much. And the retention, you hold as long as you can reasonably, meaning you don't want to force it too much, that's for sure. And then that retention happens, the main retention happens when the lungs are neither full nor empty, but in a neutral state, when they are about half full or half empty, depending on your viewpoint. So what's important to know about this breathing is that when you do it on your own, or when you do it during the class, you have to make sure that you do it either lying down, which is perfectly fine. If you want to sit on an armchair or a sofa, you can do that, leaning against something or on the floor, leaning against the wall. But what is important is that there is about 0.1% chance, even for advanced practitioners, that you may, at the end of the hyperventilation, faint, pass out. So even though this practice is so beneficial and so good in so many ways, there is a little danger that you pass out, and if you are sitting on the floor in the middle of the room, then you fall back, and that's okay. It's harmless, but this is the type of practice that you have to make sure you are not near very hard objects, or you are not standing, or you are not walking, and most importantly, you are not doing it just before doing your cold shower, or your warm shower, or before going into the bathtub. Unfortunately, some people have died doing this practice at the wrong time, in the wrong conditions. So it's really 100% safe otherwise, but do keep in mind that anytime you do this, including if you have done it daily for months and months and months and nothing happened, there is always the slight danger that you may pass out or faint at the beginning of the retention or into the retention. And this has happened to quite a few people. So we cannot overemphasize how careful you have to be when you do this. It's just about sitting in the right place, you know, having enough soft environment. So in case you fall back because you pass out, then you don't hurt yourself. Okay, this had to be said, but otherwise it's all good. You know, you boost the power of your prana, of your energy, of your whole life, your mind becomes heightened, and it's really worth it. Now, at throughout the yoga class, throughout the Power Boost Your Life class, we will do a number of practices centered around this main breathing technique. And then at the end, you have the option, should you choose to take a short cold shower, or if you are more advanced, you make it longer and longer and longer. Some practitioners after several months take, you know, full baths. So before the class, you could, if you are more advanced, fill up your bathtub, put a whole bunch of ice cubes. By the end of the class, they have melted and the water is cold enough, and you take a nice dip. So if you are new to this, please don't freak out, because you can also do this this cold exposure gradually. So you can, I will give you now a couple instructions because I don't repeat it in every class. But what you can do is to go very gradually into it, meaning many beginners in cold showers who are afraid of the cold water, which is a legitimate fear, start by taking a normal warm shower through the whole body, maybe soap up and everything. Do their normal shower, and at the end, gradually turn the cold stronger and stronger towards the cold until until they reach their own limit. Which the first time you do it, if you are later in life and you never did this before, it won't take much cold before you feel it's too much. So you start with a bearable temperature, and you can do just your limbs, you know, legs or lower legs and lower arms, and then upper arms, upper legs. And if you feel up to it, then you go the rest of the body, chest, abdomen, and the back and the face. And only if you have done the whole body for quite a while should you do your head after it. You should never start with the head, because that's another danger. If your body is at normal temperature and you bring a lot of cold in your head, the blood could leave the brain, and that's not a good thing, you know, when we have no blood in our brain. Okay, so that's a very mild way to do it. You start with warm and you do cold as much as you can, but you may find that after a minute or two, it doesn't feel that cold anymore. So in order to push your limit a bit further, you may want to turn it a bit colder, and then you see how much you can bear, and you don't overdo it, and then you stop. And the whole idea, as far as the benefits are concerned, it has been proven scientifically to lower chronic inflammation in our body. Chronic inflammation is really at the root of countless diseases. So that's really improve your health overall. It boosts the immune system. It has also been demonstrated scientifically. And the big benefit is that as a reaction to that outer cold temperature, then the body counteracts it by creating an inner fire, a little bit more every day. So when you put cold water on your skin, the blood goes inside the body and in the brain, and then the body starts burn the inner fat to create, you know, some heat from inside. And what happens is the first day it won't be that much, but it will be enough that usually even on the first day when you step out of the shower after finishing with cold, you should always finish with cold, then you usually feel quite warm. Whereas if you take a normal shower, you come out, if it's a bit cold in the bathroom, you will quickly feel cold, but here you will feel warm. So that's a sign that your inner fire is in action. And again, on the first day is just a bit, but if you do that day after day after day after day, you'll be able to take your shower colder and colder and colder and do the whole body. And after a while, a couple of weeks or more or less for some people, you can start taking a longer shower, several minutes, or cold baths for several minutes. Eventually, when you become professional, you can take an ice bath, at 1 to 3 degree temperature and stay there for a number of minutes. And the funnest part of all is when you start doing it outdoors in lakes or cold river in the mountain and things like this. And the total champions go to the Arctic Circle, and they make a hole in the ice and then sink, not sink, but soak in that icy water. But you don't have to do that on day 1 or even year 1. That comes only if you want later, but you have it in yourself. Your immune system, your inner body has the ability to create a tremendous amount of inner fire. On top of that, once the mind embraces the practice, then you find that what you thought was impossible just a couple of weeks ago is now fairly easy for you. And one technique on how to do, I would like to say, is that when we are exposed to cold water, this is an aggression of our body. There is danger. The brain perceived this cold water, this cold immersion, especially in a bath, as a life or death situation. So the reaction from inside is very intense, which is really good. And this is the source of all the benefits coming in. So, but the problem is, at first, our natural reaction when you are in that cold water under that cold shower is to tense up like this to protect yourself. But the practice to ease out the producing of the inner fire, the practice is to do the exact opposite. So what you want is to relax into it. And then if you, some part of your body feel colder, like really too cold, then you take some long exhalations and you send the heat whichever part of the body is affected. And you do that regularly, and the more you relax, the easier it is to connect with the cold, and the more inner fire the body will generate. So this is really the key. Before you come in onto the cold or under the cold, you take a few deep breaths, but especially long exhalation, long slow exhalation. You can do through the mouth. And you say, I'm going to face the cold, and the cold is going to make me super healthy. It's going to boost the power of my mind, boost the power of my body. And then you put in the cold water, and you do the same thing. You keep going into that relaxation and the long exhalation mode. And it's all blissful afterwards. The most difficult part is the first 10 seconds when we get into it. And then as you get used to relax under the water, it becomes almost pleasant. It's pleasant, but in a different way than eating a pizza. It's a different pleasure, but it's essential pleasure too. But it's from inside that joy and that pleasure arises. Okay, so that's preparation. And now I wish you a good class. See you soon in class. Om.